If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Film Foundations, the collaborative show between Weirding Way Media and Someone's Favorite Productions. As usual, I am your co-host, Ryan Farrell from Someone's Favorite Productions.
And I am Chris Stashew, your co-host from Weirding Way Media, and though you cannot see it because it is covered up, I am in fact an inanimate fucking object.
On this show, we ask and answer 4 questions about a given topic that is surrounding either a director, franchise, or microgenre, or something like today's topic, which is a really interesting actor from the fancy country of Ireland. We're going to be discussing Mr. Colin Farrell, and our job, as usual, is to entice you to broaden your horizons on film, to encourage you to travel down film tangents and side roads that you may have never traveled down otherwise. Thankfully, today we have a guest with us. It is a dear friend of mine from just a couple-hour drive away that I've met in person a couple times now, and I'm so grateful for that, Mr. Nathan Jones. Nathan, thanks for being here with us.
Well, yeah, thank you, both Chris and Ryan, for having me on this glorious podcast, talking about one of my favorite people that I've never met.
I was about to say, you and Colin go way back.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if Ryan was going to do like an Irish thing, because he's like, from the country of Ireland. I was like, oh, he's doing it already. He's already going
He's already
there.
throwing it in.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? We got to offend him immediately. You know, the land of leprechauns and potato famine.
I see that
and that's it.
syndrome tricks, slipcover back there, you know. I'm assuming by this time there will be a Vinegar Syndrome Tricks cover of some kind of movie. I don't know.
They'll have branded cereal or something that they're putting.
I mean, it's only a matter of time. Funko's done it.
Oh, gosh.
They have.
Nathan, before we get into why you love Colin Farrell, can you share what you do on the internet so people can look you up?
Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel called Specifically Blu-rays with Nathan Jones, where I talk about, obviously, Blu-rays and physical media. At recent times, I've been kind of taking a break, but for the most part, I'm talking about new releases, what I've been watching, and I've talked to people in the community like yourself, Ryan, and I enjoy this community and the space, and so it's a lot of fun talking about physical media and the ever evolving nature of it, like Trix cereal boxes and whatnot. So.
Well, that is wonderful. I highly recommend people check out Nathan's channel. I've followed Nathan for years, I believe before my channel even went live. So at this point, I highly, highly recommend it. And now I really want to dive into this because I know that you love this person. But before we go into it, I'm just going to list some bona fides and say I want to thank Nathan because he is one of the very first people that contributed to what is now a print magazine in the Physical Media Advocate. And he wrote about Sir Colin Farrell in the very first issue of the Physical Media Advocate. So, yeah, you've clearly liked him for quite some time. Can you share why?
Yeah, I don't know. It's all because of this movie that I'm sure will come up several times in this podcast. It's something that I don't know how it came about, more or less. I used to work at a record store called CD Warehouse, which was a big Midwest chain here, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, maybe, possibly, if you're in the Midwest. Yeah.
I'm disappointed you didn't say Movie Trading Co., to be perfectly honest with you, or whatever the version, Entertain Mart, or no,
yeah, Entertain
Slackers,
Mart.
Yeah, or whatever the hell it's called in the Midwest, but it goes by like 3 different names.
Right.
Surprised CD Warehouse wasn't one of them.
Yeah, well, unfortunately defunct. One of my favorite jobs I ever had. Very, very much like High Fidelity, and everyone had a characteristic about them working there. Maybe not so positive all the time, but that was when I kind of fell in love with movies and really kind of deep dove into movies that were a little bit more art house or more foreign films, international pictures, and etc. And In Bruges came up really early in that lineup, and it really was a foundational film for how my outlook on life, honestly. And it's something that I've shown to many people, and now I feel like it's a cult classic, and a lot of people really, really like it. And I have a feeling, at least the people in my life, I have something to do with a little bit of that. So, yeah, that's why I like Colin.
It's a good call out. That movie is amazing. I guarantee we will be talking about it tonight.
That movie's amazing is underselling it. I'm not going to let you get away with that one. That
We're going to get into it a little.
I know, but like, I think to Nathan's point, like for me, it also has that same, like there was a point where I saw it and there was a point where I hadn't seen it.
And I feel that way about SWAT.
okay. And you see, this is why we can't have nice things here.
This is how I feel the same way about SWAT and phone booth.
I was about to say, if phone booth doesn't make an appearance somewhere, we're really out of touch here, guys.
I've literally already wrote it on the list because I know that we're going to talk about it. So, yes, that's how you found your way to Colin Farrell, and I'm loving all of the praise for him already. But now we got to go, Chris. Like, what was your introduction to Colin Farrell?
It was that movie that Nathan just pulled out of his quick draw, as they would say. Quick draw Nathan Jones over there with his Blu-ray of Phone Booth. That was the first thing I ever saw Colin Farrell in. And boy, what a wild-ass movie that for a lot of people is probably not a great movie per se, but it's an interesting movie because it should not work. It's almost essentially an episode of a TV show in a lot of ways. Like, it's a bottle episode, but it's somehow like also a really cheap movie to make. And I don't know, something about Colin Farrell seems perfect. I mean, he's not at all Irish in that movie, which is a thing that comes and goes with Mr. Colin Farrell, is whether or not they're like, oh, he's Irish, or oh, he can just do a really convincing American accent. But for me, it's Phone Booth. And I'm thankful I can say it was Phone Booth because there was a time and a place where it could have been Daredevil. And Jesus Christ, I'm glad it wasn't that. Because nothing says awful like Colin Farrell with like a bullseye imprinted on his forehead in a way that makes no sense. They were like, oh, the comic does it well. Let's just do it the stupidest way possible.
And make sure he says his name.
Yeah, like all the time. And he kills an old lady in an airplane with a toothpick, which, what else says great guy other than that? Ryan, what about you, Ryan? Where does Colin Farrell come into your life? What year? What time?
Funny enough, I brought it up in jest. I honestly think SWAT was the first movie I saw him in.
Wow.
I can't remember if I saw that or Minority Report first, but I remember SWAT being one that I saw in theaters, and I was like surprisingly young at the time. I think that came out in 2004? 2003. Okay, so I was literally like my parents driving me to the movie theater to see a movie age at that time. And so I remember going to see SWAT, and
you were probably jacked the whole time. You're like, going to see fucking SWAT, bro. Yeah. This movie looks awesome. I mean, I remember the trailer for that movie. That movie looked awesome. I mean, Come on. You were what, like 16 at the time? Like, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I liked SWAT when it came out. I don't think I've watched it since then, but yeah, I was into it. In Bruges was obviously a big one for me. Alexander was one that was big for a couple of my friends, so I saw that handful of times, like the year I graduated from high school. Mentioned Minority Report. I don't know if we're going to talk about it much tonight, but I really want to throw out just a little bit of love for Miami Vice. That movie is so much better than it gets credit for.
He's got it. He's grabbing it, folks. Ooh.
With Inside Man.
With Inside Man. Well, what the fuck? What a double feat. Yeah, thank you. Why is that the second film? What is that's a Clive Owen movie, is it not? They're like two people that look vaguely from the UK. Fine. Talk about a disparity in, well, I don't want to disparage Clive Owen. He's no Colin Farrell. Let's put it that way. But he hasn't also been given opportunities like Colin Farrell has. Clive Owen is like less fun Gerard Butler, because now Gerard Butler's just being given dumb shit to do, and it's more entertaining than serious stuff.
Imagine if Colin Farrell was King Arthur instead of Clive Owen being an Alexander.
Oh,
that would have been incredible, in my opinion.
Yeah. Man, King Arthur's a movie that exists, isn't it?
I like that movie, though. I have a nostalgia for it. It's not good.
Yoan Grufford.
Mads Mikkelsen has pretty much a mute, badass. So
best way to use an actor who has a great voice and delivers dialogue fantastically is just don't have him open his fucking mouth.
It's perfect. So I liked Colin Farrell from a very young age. Of course, around that beginning part of his career, most of his roles were on he's early in his career level. And then, of course, stuff started to pick up. He started to get bigger things. And I've loved following along. We're going to talk about some of these, I'm sure, that I've loved, especially over the last 10 or 12 years. But other than that, anything else about his history, any of the films that you think we probably won't talk about tonight, Nathan, that you really want to give a little period to in the beginning?
I probably will get to them somehow.
Nice.
And we'll probably insert them as props throughout this entire episode.
Well, then, before we get to that first question, I want to mention one thing that is literally not going to come up tonight, and I guarantee it because it's not a film. I really want to shout out how universal he is in any situation, because I even loved his role in Scrubs. That show, I loved Scrubs growing up. It is an incredible sitcom, and his role on that was so incredibly touching, and it was during the period when he had, already gone to rehab and started to make his little bounce back from his little down period, and people were sort of anti Colin Farrell for a little bit, and he was fucking amazing on that show. He's emotional. He carries out everything he needed to be. His Irish accent was on full display. He was like, let's be extra Irish today. And it worked. I think he fit super well in the show.
I don't remember what episode that is. Not gonna
Perfect.
lie.
I think to Nathan's point, I'll probably end up bringing everything up, but I think the thing that, to tie into a previous episode we've already done, and we didn't mention him there, but let's mention him here. Missed opportunity of a lifetime having Colin Farrell turn into Johnny Depp in Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
because look,
switch that.
There's a bit of a downgrade, one might say. And look, I'm not saying I don't like Johnny Depp. That's not the point. Johnny Depp of 2016, not the same as Johnny Depp of, say, 2006 to 1996. And look, what happens afterwards, they get embroiled in one of the dumbest fucking things known to man, Depp versus Amber Heard, which is still the stupidest thing any of us were engaged in for the last 5 years, and COVID happened.
It will come out here in a couple years as a movie.
Right, yeah. Them playing themselves, too, I hope. I mean, just give me that, right? But I don't think it deserves to be mentioned because we're going to be talking about positive things, but him being in that franchise was a good thing until they were like, but just kidding, he's not actually in it anymore. And then on top of everything else, they never address what actually happened to the character that was actually played by Colin Farrell in that universe. I guess he just was killed off screen, but it's never even addressed because there is a real character in that universe that is being impersonated by someone else. And it's just like, further ignore the fact that he was in this franchise, which is a shame because, like you mentioned, Mads Mikkelsen ends up showing up too. So, kind of a compliment sandwich with Johnny Depp in the middle. So, yeah, we're not going to be bringing up Fantastic Beasts anymore. Let's just pretend it never happened and continue.
And scene.
Yeah.
Well, we're all eager to keep heaping praise on this gentleman. So, Nathan, let's go to that first question. What do you think is the foundational title for Colin Farrell? The one that anybody that's never somehow seen a Colin Farrell film, what should they watch first?
I wonder what it'll be. I wonder what it will be. It's in Bruges. I just think this movie. There's actually a couple of movies that I actually would put in this category. To be honest, in terms of maybe just kind of solidifying who Colin Farrell is and kind of where he's been and all the escapades he's been around and done. But I honestly think this is super sensational in terms of just being all over the map. In terms of a black comedy, an action movie. It's something that I feel like most people, if you go into this blind, you're going to find something out of this that you enjoyed, and you don't really know where to put your finger on it, because I feel like this is one of those movies you need to watch multiple times to kind of digest And that's been the case for almost anyone I've ever shown this movie to. They're like, wow, I really enjoyed that. And they're interested in watching it again, in the future. And so, yeah, it's one of those movies that I think is just, it hits the almost aimlessness of life, in a way, but in like a way that is really charming. And I don't know how to describe that feeling. But yeah, this is what I would consider, a foundational title for, Colin Farrell. I mean, this is the one that's become the cult classic film, that he is beloved for. And in that moody, selfishness of his character that I can very much relate to and not have a good time in many situations that I'm in. And if anyone who hasn't seen this movie, that's kind of that character, to a T. He just does not want to be there. Or around.
Or anybody that hasn't seen it, can you? I'd love to hear how you describe the plot.
Well, the plot is pretty simple, but more or less, I would describe this movie as two hitmen who are taking a little break away from a job in Bruges in Belgium, and they're just set there to kind of just hide out for a bit to make things cool down because of an incident that occurred. That happened earlier that you catch on pretty early on in the film. And more or less, one of them doesn't want to be there, Colin Farrell. And then Brendan Gleeson, who is the other main character in this film, one of the three main characters in this film, I would argue, is just the more senior of the hitmen and the one who's been around the block for a little bit and is a little bit more chipper and excited to be on vacation. And, you have that clashing duality between the two. And yeah, things go awry as, things are trying to cool down, but I wouldn't describe, much more after that. So,
I think In Bruges is a perfect film. I think this is masterfully written by Martin McDonagh. I think that the way that he crafts a script that knowing that he's going to direct it to, and obviously he does that at least one more time in this little partnership that they have. He has been able to see things from beginning to end in a way that other writers don't necessarily get to do. And you can tell that these are incredibly personal films for him because he has been a part of it from the very beginning. And obviously the trio of Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Martin McDonagh working together is magical at this point. Like we've seen multiple instances where they can deliver a film that is special, that leads to awards talk, that leads to being foundational films for people that are seeing them for the first time and falling in love with different types of cinema. And this is literally a perfect film for somebody to get into this entire filmography because it has everything. Like you said, it's got comedy, it's got action, it's got a little bit of that, international flair, obviously, as it's in just this gorgeous setting. And it's got some of the prime players that he spends a lot of his time with. So I completely agree. This is clearly my pick, head and shoulders above anything else. I would say if you are fairly new to movies in general and you want to go something on the easier side, I would honestly say Phone Booth wouldn't be a terrible pick for somebody just getting into it. I think that if you are into the mainstream fare, it's a very good movie to start with to fall in love with him as an actor because he carries the film and leads to a surprising successful film because that movie should not be as good as it is for what he's doing.
Animate fucking object.
Yeah, I have a couple things I want to say here. I agree with your sentiment on Phone Booth 100%. I will say that I think Phone Booth works. Sitting here thinking about it as y'all have been talking, I think Phone Booth would not be as good if it didn't also have Kiefer Sutherland in it. And I think that Kiefer and Colin, I think that movie's interesting with Colin Farrell in it, but I think it becomes kind of like, for me, the film The Watcher, which has Keanu and James Spader in it. That movie is a piece of... Okay, the movie's not great. I don't want to say it's a piece of shit, but it's not a great movie, but it really is interesting because you have Keanu playing a villain, which is a thing that he rarely does. Kiefer Sutherland in that movie, I'm not saying Kiefer doesn't play villains, but the character that Kiefer is playing in Phone Booth is more interesting than Colin Farrell's character, but Colin Farrell's character is the vehicle through which the film exists. I would agree with you guys. Obviously, In Bruges is a perfect movie. It is a movie that is was important to me for a very long time, and it would have been my answer up until about 6 months ago. And so here's the thing. The real sad thing here in talking about In Bruges is that there are not enough movies by Martin McDonagh to do an episode on Martin McDonagh, because Martin McDonagh is the master of which Colin Farrell is the brush through which the canvas is being painted, because Martin McDonagh is, for me, Stanley Kubrick level of talent, like a seminal filmmaker, more so even because he writes and directs the things that he's doing, which, I mean, look, I'm more of a fan of Martin McDonagh than I am of someone like Tarantino. And I probably, if I saw his films, I haven't gotten around to it yet, Yorgos Lanthimos, probably I would feel the same way about him. I haven't gotten around to seeing his films, which is why they're not showing up here for any of the Colin Farrell picks. But I would concede that In Bruges is a perfect film and is the perfect answer for this question. However, because you both already brought it up, because you both already mentioned it, because he's got it on quick draw. Let's see if he's right. Hold up what you think I'm going to say. Yeah, that is Colin Farrell's best movie so far. It's Martin McDonagh's best film so far. And it is Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell's best performances, because the story that it's telling on the face of it is about a friendship that falls out, and one of the people cannot figure out why, and the other person knows why, and the inability to communicate leads to some of the worst things that you can see in terms of like unfortunate things happening to characters in movies for seemingly not improbable reasons, but the tension and the escalation of the problems in that movie is similar to what the movie's subtext is, which was the conflict between Ireland and England and all of the things that were going on during that conflict. And that's what the movie's subtextually about. But on the face of it, it's about the dissolution of a friendship with which we can all understand, which is why, for me, In Bruges, it kind of, they're the same coin, different heads. One is about the listlessness of life and never feeling like you are going to be satisfied with life, even in the most satisfying situations, like being in Bruges. I've been to Brussels, and I've been to places like there where they're talking about in that movie. It's beautiful. How could you not love it? But again, that's what In Bruges talks about. Banshees of Inisherin is about what happens when life goes too far and there is no way back. And what does it look like to move forward without forcing yourself to look back? And that's something that the last couple years of my life I've had to really internalize. And Banshees of Inisherin came into my life at a time where I needed to see what that looked like cinematically to help process what I was going through personally. And I think Banshees of Inisherin is a perfect movie as well. I think they're both perfect movies. I actually think, to both of your points, and again, to speak more broadly about Martin McDonagh, I think Martin McDonagh has done his best work in film with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, because if I were to rank his movies, it would be Banshees and In Bruges 1, 2, and then 7 Psychopaths 3, and then 3 Billboards 4. And that's kind of unfortunate because 3 Billboards, it didn't work for me because I think the movie's morality is odd, and I think it's weird only because it's an outsider giving his thoughts on our culture, and I don't think it necessarily works as well as Martin McDonagh thinks it does. And 7 Psychopaths is a lot more of a personal story because it's effectively about being a creative and describing to other people what it means to be a creative in a way that Martin McDonagh is uniquely talented to do. But if Martin McDonagh never made another movie, this is a very good bookend and opening movie. In Bruges and Banshees of Inisherin, like, they're 2 perfect movies. And for me, Colin Farrell in Banshees is also perfect because he is playing against type. He is so hardcore playing against type. He is playing the dullard moron character that you would really think Brendan Gleeson would be better suited for. But yet somehow Colin Farrell playing this dope is so engaging and he's so empathetic, and you understand why he gets to the point where he gets to. And when he does the things that he does that seem reprehensible, you're like, you know what? You're right. At this point, you don't have another choice, and this is the only way forward. And I don't know. I think that's maybe why this elevates this a little bit above In Bruges for me at this point. Again, personally is one thing, but also I think it's more interesting to see Colin Farrell really play against type. And Banshees is like case one of him playing against type, because Colin Farrell as a dullard, really? Like, that's not the guy you want to play as a dullard, but yet he nails it.
That's on Banshees, Nathan?
I love Banshees, and I would have to second that. Honestly, perfect bookends, like you said. It's Banshees to me is a very wizened look into Martin McDonagh's like playwriting career, and also just that friendship between Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, and really kind of shining that light, in my opinion, with that backdrop, obviously, of the Civil War and the secession and whatnot, but. At the end of the day, though, like it feels deeply personal. It's tragic, but at the same time, it's very very realistic in its portrayal. Even if it's outlandish and crazy with the the events that happen in the film, I think it's one of those films that like completely just floored me when I watched it, and that was my favorite movie of the year it came out, and I couldn't argue against the fact that you said that's better than In Bruges, even though it's the same coin, other side. But yeah, more or less, I love this movie. I think it's a masterpiece, and it's a perfect film as well. And I couldn't disagree.
So yeah, I do agree, and I do think it's Colin Farrell's best performance. My only thing is, I do think that this is more of a movie made for movie lovers, made for cinephiles, and I think that it has a little bit more of a barrier of entry than In Bruges. In Bruges kind of fits a lot more genres, and Banshees is a little slow.
Banshees is a movie with a capital M, is what it feels like, made by a director with a capital D. And I get that. That's why like there's a minor amount of trepidation, but I feel like if you stick with it for the performances, you'll be able to power through the kind of slow burn, because the movie is a slow burn, but once it gets going, I mean, it just goes for it. I mean, again, it goes for it in a way that a Martin McDonagh movie does, which is to say, like, it's character interactions. There's not, alien spaceships and shit. It's very low key, but you feel how important the stakes are to the characters, and that's why it matters.
Yeah. And I don't even really count it as a slow burn. I more count it as like, it's a movie about interactions, and therefore it can't go too fast. Otherwise, none of it works.
Right.
And funny enough, and she's going to watch this episode, so hi, Mom. But I think I saw this embodied perfectly when I watched this, because I watched it with me and my wife and my mom, and we're all sitting there, and we go through this entire film, and we get to the end, and I'm like borderline almost about to burst out into tears because of how much this meant to me. Because I was, same with you, Chris, like at that perfect age to be like, you got to let some of these relationships go. You're carrying things that you don't need to carry for other people, blah, blah, blah. There's other shit. Anyways, we get done, and my mom like gets up to go get water, and she comes back and she goes, but what were they fighting about?
I mean, hey, I get it though. Like I totally get it. Like like we've already alluded to, Banshees is a harder to digest movie, but it's not indigestible. Like there are movies that like you would suggest it to someone and be like, hey, by the way, you're probably not even going to like this movie. You may not even find this entertaining, but you need to understand how important it is. Like Banshees is not that. It is just, it's a drama. In Bruges is more of like there's more going on. Like you mentioned, Nathan, there's so much going on that it is just more accessible for most people. Because I mean, I think to call it a Tarantino adjacent movie is probably the easiest way to get certain ding dongs through the door. I think that's to diminish Martin McDonagh as a writer director, because I think, again, heads and tails above just copying other people's stuff and saying it's your own. So again, at least Martin McDonagh has original ideas. Sometimes it does take a while to get there. I mean, if you told someone what Banshees of Inisherin was about, it takes like a half an hour to get to the thing that the movie's about. It takes a half an hour to get to the point where one character is doing the thing that you tell everybody this movie is about. It gets you through the door for some people. Like, what the fuck is this movie about? But it takes like 30 minutes to get there. In Bruges, it's like immediate. You're in Bruges with them, and there's like a flashback or two, and that's it. Like Banshees is slow, like you've said, Ryan, because it has to be.
Exactly.
I also think it's just the perfect combination of the two. I mean, if anyone's ever, watching it, in Bruges first and then following it up with Banshees, and like you're both talking about the certain times of your life, like I think that's like these films will break you. And I think at a certain point, and like, I think that's the reason why, to both of your points about watching Banshees, it broke me too when I watched it, because I'm at that stage now of my life where all my friends are moving away, or they're getting in relationships, etc. And so, yeah, it hit. And I feel like it's going to hit the next time I see it, and I already know what it's all about. So.
And I'm not going to mention it at any other point here, but again, to kind of put a cap on my thoughts, Seven Psychopaths is a movie that's a lot more fun. Than I think. I don't know. It's a weird movie. I've watched it 3 times now, and I think I've appreciated it more each time I watch it. But it is, I think, of the 3 Colin Farrell, Martin McDonagh collaborations, it's the hardest to digest, because I think it's the most personal. Because, again, it's speaking to the creative process that Martin McDonagh is going through. I mean, the Colin Farrell character in that movie is vaguely veiled as Martin McDonagh, essentially. So, I don't know. Seven Psychopaths, to me, like, people went to see it thinking it was going to be in Bruges, and it's way less in Bruges than even Banshees is. Like, Seven Psychopaths is... If you watch the trailer for that movie, it is not even that movie that the trailer is advertising it as.
Almost feels like a Coen Brothers movie in some ways.
Yeah. And Martin McDonagh, like, 3 Billboards has, speaking of Coen Brothers, right? Frances McDormand gets an Oscar from working with Martin McDonagh, got an Oscar for working with the Coens, because these people know how to write scripts and direct the shit out of them. Like, even if they didn't direct the shit out of them, which they do, they still are some of our, like, finest, like, screenwriters. And in Martin McDonagh's case, he's a goddamn playwright before he's even a screenwriter, which I think for me is, again, further proof that Martin McDonagh, he could be done with film, is my point, and come back to it 20 years from now and have more to say 20 years from now. But he's been doing playwriting while being a filmmaker as well. So, hats off to him. It's just too bad we don't have enough movies to do a whole episode on. Not yet, at least.
Well, and because he was a playwright, you can see that in so many of his films, but specifically Banshees. Like, none of us mentioned him, but I got to give real quick shout out. Barry Keoghan is insane in that movie. He is maybe like, Colin Farrell puts on a career best, but Barry Keoghan shines in every single scene he's in. And even, I don't think this movie works properly if this is anybody else besides Carrie Condon in her role. She is incredible in that as well. Really, the 4 of them fit perfectly, but he frames each of those interactions as if they're on stage. He frames those as if you can imagine where they are, stage right, stage left. You are seeing a very like intimate interaction, and even the longest and largest interactions it's a very small thing, because it's all encapsulated in this very small town, and that leads into the dynamics of the friendship itself. It changes the entire like reality of this story if it's not filmed in that small, intimate way. And anyways,
and I was going to say, and I was also going to say, to your point about it feeling like a stage play, that for me is why 3 Billboards doesn't work as well, is because 3 Billboards it should have just been a play. Like, I don't know, like the subject material, I get it. But for me, it just, I don't know, like, maybe
a little
this is
toned
kind of
down.
a hot.
So.
Yeah, you're right. Like, that's probably the nice, that to be diplomatic. It's kind of tone deaf, but at the same time, Martin McDonagh is a outsider looking at our culture and giving his kind of, 100-yard stare, or whatever you want to call it. And I get it. The ending of that movie I find to be strange, and just like the moral compass that it decides to point itself, that direction is just like, really? Okay. Like, even Banshees and In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths, their moral compass is less, I don't know, less, like you said, tone deaf.
Well, I think tone deaf is the great way to lead into our second question of the night. So let's start discussing this one. Of course, it is Nathan. Could you recommend a lesser known film in his filmography, which might not be the best first time watch for people brand new to Colin Farrell, but of course, still a good entry?
Yeah, so I kind of cheated. And when I say that, I mean I have a TV show as well. So I will mention that here in a second. But the movie I want to talk about is one that actually I looked into it a little bit more in terms of this time period in Colin Farrell's life, and it's really important to him. Actually, it's Ondine right here. It's a little Irish film. 2009, I believe, is when this came out. It's right around the time he actually had his first kid. And so this is about it's pretty much a fairy tale film. I know we didn't mention fairy tale when we talked about in Bruges, but that's kind of funny. A little bit of a combination there. But it's about a Selkie, more or less. Him just being this fisherman at this small little town, and he is pretty much a town drunk. Nobody. He's got a little kid that he's supporting, but he's honestly he can't take care of himself. So anyway, he catches this woman in his net when he was fishing randomly, and it happens to be a Selkie. So, but he's not really sure like how he met her. And then they interact together, and it starts becoming a relationship, even though he can't tell if it's just a woman who just happened to be in the water. It's a weird movie. It's surprisingly dark. I would akin it to something like Pan's Labyrinth in terms of like that dark fantasy in a way, and tragedy as well. There's some tragic stuff going on in this movie, but at the same time, I mean, it's not a movie that's really talked about or really thought about too often. I was drawn to it because Colin Farrell was attached to it, of course. But has either of you seen this film? Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah,
it has long hair Colin Farrell though. That's all I care about. That's all. I mean, long hair Colin Farrell is a vibe for sure.
I understand.
Same.
Okay, now your turn, Ryan.
Yes. You don't want to see where my hair is long. It's my back, by the way.
Everyone.
This is the film that comes out right after In Bruges too. That's super interesting.
Yeah, both kind of ties to his homeland too, in a way. So I which is an interesting conversation too, because I mean, we mentioned Alexander. That was a really tragic moment, like in his career, and he really did not like going through the aftermath of that film, which a lot of us didn't either. And so I feel like him stepping down to these smaller roles was really, really important for him to just kind of garner his confidence back, like for himself. And it really shows. And I think that's another reason why I love In Bruges so much, is because you can kind of tell that it almost feels like that's Colin Farrell. That's just him being himself. And honestly, like it's similar in this. He's just this drunk fisherman and going through the motions of things, and then something, magical happens, and in a way, it kind of gives you that eureka moment in his life to be like, you know what, maybe I should, try a little bit. He doesn't have to. It's not like a typical romance. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm a piece of shit, but at the same time, I think I can try a little bit better. And I think that's a really good message, and a very realistic message, even if there's fantasy and something like this. And that's why something like this, I think, is important to talk about. But the other one I wanted to mention real quick is a TV show. I think a lot of people really need to see. It came out a couple years ago. It's North Water. This is an incredible BBC show. Like, holy moly, it's a miniseries. Colin Farrell plays actually a villain, this kind of whaler, almost like a Captain Ahab of sorts character in this. And he is just brutal. And it's one of my favorite shows I've seen in quite some time, actually. And it's one that's not really talked about, but it's got Jack O'Connell and Colin Farrell. And I don't know if it's available in the States necessarily. I had to import this, but on DVD. But it's definitely one I would check out, especially if you are into like Master and Commander, things along that ilk, where it's almost like you have like that, those book novels, but also the movie itself. If you're into that, that time period in history, it definitely shines a light onto that. But you also just have an incredible performance with Colin Farrell just being an absolute psychopath in this movie. And honestly, I could see this role turn into this movie, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But that's exactly that transition I could see so easily from this particular performance, just being a complete madman. So anyway, North Water.
You know how glad I am you didn't pull a DVD or Blu-ray of True Detective up? Because I would have just been like, what the fuck are we doing here, folks? What is going on here?
Oh, man. I try to block that from my memory, but I also have a good time with it sometimes, too.
I mean, it is Colin Farrell. He's still
exactly.
mildly entertaining.
Exactly.
Chris, what is your answer for our second question this evening?
So 2011 and 2012 are pretty, what I would say, pretty big years for Colin Farrell in terms of being a mainstream actor and being in mainstream things that lots of people would be seeing. Now, 2011 and 2012, there are 4 movies that Colin Farrell was in, and I am not going to be picking 2. I'm going to be picking 1. I did already mention Seven Psychopaths, which I think is, kind of a fair answer, but boy, there's something about that 2011 Fright Night that really just gets my blood going. And I'll tell you what, it took me a decade plus to see the original movie. That's how much I like the remake. I had never even seen the original when I saw the remake. Colin Farrell is just... Look, Colin Farrell's amazing in that movie. David Tennant is amazing in that movie. Anton Yelchin is amazing in that movie. Oh, by the way, Toni Collette's in that fucking movie, too. The fact that the 4 of them are in that movie is crazy to me because they're amazing.
You forgot 2 more names, though. Imogen Poots and McLovin.
Yeah, McLovin's in there, too, yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Mintz-Plasse. I never have been, and I probably never will be. And his role in Kick-Ass was like, I really don't like you now, and I know that was the intention of the character in the movie, but for me, Chris Mintz-Plasse, look, let me rephrase this. I don't like Superbad.
Okay.
So that's kind of what formed my kind of opinion on
to be fair, he's barely in that movie. So
but
he's really only great in role models.
That's true.
Yeah, really that's fair. You're right. That's the one thing I like him in. You're totally right. And that's because his character is annoying in the right way. Not in the way that's just like, oh, this is going to be a thing for like the rest of our lives now. Because the McLovin thing is just like, Jesus Christ. I bet he wants to get out from underneath it. But yeah, to your point, he's actually, in Fright Night, he's great. But that's because, again, he's doing a very villainous kind of role, a fun villainous role. Unfortunately, no gay porn from Chris Mintz-Plasse can't be said for the original Fright Night actor. But I love the remake of Fright Night. I think it's great. I was not going to mention Total Recall, but I want to mention, boy, whoo, doggy, what a missed opportunity, because there's a universe where that movie was actually good. It's not this one, so that's too bad. And everybody remember how Ethan Hawke was in that movie for like 2 seconds? It wasn't in the theater cut, though, but if you watch the extended cut of a already mediocre movie, it's mildly better. And by mildly, I mean 1%, if that. But Fright Night for me is an easy pick, I feel like.
Ethan Hawke is actually one of my other choices for this podcast, because that's one of my favorite actors as well. So,
and if every answer on that episode's not the movie, what the fuck is the name of the movie with Bagul in it?
Oh, are you talking about Insidious? No. Hold on. Let me go back.
Sinister. Yeah, Bagul. That's so dumb.
It's Kane. It looks like Kane.
I love that movie.
I mean, it's a fun movie, but the name Bagul just makes me laugh.
Yeah,
because it just makes me think of Bagul, The Legends of the Guardians.
Right.
Yeah, I like that movie too. But yeah, you're right. It is a silly name. He looks like Kane with the mask on.
That's gotta be Bagul.
Oh my god, it's Bagul!
Bagul has entered the impact zone.
He's got the kids. He's got the kids.
Where to, Bagul? Oh God. Yeah, but hey, that's the other thing. Speaking of horror, I believe Fright Night is the only horror movie Colin Farrell is in. So, not to be a homer for horror movies, but it's a pretty good horror movie too. It's a good remake in a time and a place where remakes that were good we're kind of going out of style, because if memory serves, didn't the reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street come out like the year before this, like 2010? And that movie is replete with great actors and does nothing with any of them. So,
I agree.
Yeah. Friday Night's a good pick, right?
Yeah, I love Friday Night.
It is a great pick and one of my picks. So I'll change mine.
I was like, oh no, did I take Ryan's pick by accident?
So funny enough, I'll change mine entirely. But what I was going to pitch this as is whether you're a fan of comedies or horror is going to determine which one you go with for me. Because 2011 is my answer. I would say Horrible Bosses is a really great pick, or Friday Night. Obviously, both of them have incredible casts, and they're incredible performances from him literally in both films. He's amazing in both. But I'm going to throw out there one, since we haven't even mentioned either of these movies yet tonight. You got to talk about Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Lobster.
Like I said, no Yorgos on my end.
They have to be brought up. Like, they are both insanely entertaining films. And if you're into the absurd, like, you have to get into these. But again, if Banshees of Inisherin has a little bit of a barrier to entry, any Yorgos film is going to be like, you need to wait and then get into that film. And these are the perfect examples of that. It is a very, very absurd, to the point where many scenes to most people on the first try are probably not going to make a lot of sense. And when you go through the entire film, you're probably going to be at least mildly entertained. But the big takeaway from both of these, Colin Farrell's amazing in both of them. He works really well with Yorgos. And now, of course, Yorgos has his own little muse that he's been working with for, 3 movies in a row now? And so Colin Farrell seems to be on the back burner, but that's all right. Maybe he comes back with Yorgos in the next one. But I think both of these are a really great pick, and they are solid films with a lot of rewatchability because they're so absurd. It's one of those things where you watch it and you go, wow, that was a lot. I really liked it, but now I want to understand it. Let's go back and watch it 4 more times. So that's my backup, since you took half my answer.
The real question, Ryan, is which animal would you be if you were in The Lobster?
Oh, God. I saw this coming. I should have prepared this, but it would probably be something like a handicapped sloth. I'm fat.
Are you talking about like without a certain amount of claws, or
aren't sloths already slow?
Yes. I've got a bad foot. That's why I said that.
A slower sloth than normal.
Yeah, a slower sloth. Yeah. It's a great question. It would definitely not be a lobster, though. This is one of those personality quiz type things. And I love going to people after watching this. So, what do you think?
Chris, now your turn. What would you choose as an animal?
I've never even seen it. That's the thing. I'll pick. You know what? I'll pick
an animal.
The movie none of us mentioned. I'll pick a giant flying elephant.
Dumbo?
Yeah, he was in Dumbo. Colin Farrell was in Dumbo as an amputee.
Hey, Joplin, Missouri. That is really close by the way. That's I see Dumbo on my way to work all the time. So, not true. I would probably choose. Thank you for asking, by the way. I would probably choose. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I probably would choose a dog, which is really boring, but I think I would be a border collie, and then live my 15 years of life and then be done. So,
because you're a good friend.
As a border collie, you'd live on the fringe of things the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Just right on the border.
Yeah, right on the border.
Oh man, yeah. This is one of those questions. Unfortunately, because it's about somebody like Colin Farrell, there literally is 15 answers that we could have been like, yeah, that's the right answer for this. And the reality is, with somebody that is as talented as him, unfortunately, there are some stinkers. Like not every film in his filmography are winners overall. He puts in mostly good performances. There's a couple that I wouldn't say are real great, especially in those earlier years. But this is a hard one to answer for somebody like him, who is kind of the best in almost everything that he touches. So it's really easy to recommend anything. And if you've never seen any of these somehow, you are not going to be wrong just going anywhere that we've already went in that path tonight. Are we ready for question 3, gentlemen?
I believe so.
I guess so, yeah.
Let's do it. As usual, what is the biggest impact that you think Colin Farrell has had on pop culture as a whole? Mr. Jones.
Now, when you asked this question, I didn't know how to answer it in terms of, is it like film, or would it be like kind of just how he is as a person? That's like,
yes.
As a person.
That's the best part of this question. It is up to you. You get to interpret it however you see fit.
Well, I mean, I'm going to tie it back to In Bruges a little bit, and be a little selfish here. When I say that, I mean it in the way that Colin Farrell's like life is, and how he's gone through his life. I definitely feel like he has had a crazy amount of ups and downs, drug addiction, sex addiction, being around many people, being a father, being in a lot of various roles, ups and downs, Alexander being a bad time, coming back up with all these indie roles. But at the same time, I just seeing him interact with, people and in interviews, or, with friends that I've seen, just in the videos that we've seen of him, and the way he like speaks in writing as well. He just seems like a very honest, straightforward person who is not afraid to talk about how he's feeling about things. And I feel like his character in Bruges is absolutely that. He's like, I do not have any fear of how I'm feeling about this. Is how I'm feeling about it. I don't want to do this thing. But at the same time, life's worth living, even if it is a little bit all over the map. It's hard to explain with popular culture, but he's a Renaissance man. It's more or less what I'm trying to say. Is he's all over the place, and it's one of those things that's really endearing. And I think he's incredibly charming in that sense, because I feel like a lot of us can imbue ourselves within a lot of the like films he's in, and just see yourself in a role similar to his. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. So.
Any thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I also had a hard time answering this question. I mean, Nathan, I think you're right. I've seen, I would say he's as a good steward of being a leading man type, and like being very humble about it. You've kind of alluded to that a little bit, Nathan. Like he seems like a very down to earth person.
He's humble, and he's got humility to him. Yeah,
which like for someone like himself who is amazingly good looking in like all forms, be it long hair Colin Farrell, short hair Colin Farrell, with or without facial hair, playing a dullard, not playing a dullard. Like Colin Farrell is just a good-looking human being, and it tends to seem that people that are like that tend to think very highly of themselves. And Colin Farrell doesn't seem to be in that camp. He seems to be a very down-to-earth, humble human being. So no, I would agree with that 100%. I think my answer, the thing that I kind of scraped together, was I think he also paved the way for certain kind of genre films to maybe be taken a little bit more seriously by more of these, I would say, elevated actors, because I think, like we've already alluded to, Colin Farrell is a actor with a capital A, who also just happened to play the fucking Penguin in the last Batman movie, which, again, like that, right, like that's, for me, I think Colin Farrell is an actor who, to your point, he's a very naturalistic actor. The reality of who he is comes through in the roles, but he can also really elevate something that, for all intents and purposes, Jerry Dandridge in Fright Night 2011 should not have been nearly as charismatic as he is, but he is, because Colin Farrell is just a charismatic guy. Penguin in the new Batman movie could have been a fucking afterthought, and he was not an afterthought at all, to the point where he has his own show now. And Colin Farrell is in the show in makeup the entire time. I mean, like the kind of makeup that you think about when you think of like a full prosthetic, like 8 hours in a chair type thing. So that, I mean, I just think Colin Farrell, to your point, elevates everything that he's in, which is not the case for every actor with a capital A. Sometimes an actor with a capital A has to be the center of attention in the things that they're in. And Colin Farrell does not strike me as that type, which goes hand in hand with his humility. So, Ryan, what about you? Do you have an easy answer here, or are you kind of doing what we did and looking for things?
I had two things, and one of them was really weird, but I wanted to throw this out there and just mention it for a moment. So I wanted to say, in a world of prudes, which this is not about a sexual thing necessarily, but in a world of prudes, where over the last 25 years, we've seen this return to a very, too proper of individual. I have always respected that he is very, very real and will speak his mind and not shy away from using real life language, which is something that most stars do. I think it's important to point that out. Like, I don't think it's classless that he cusses in interviews. Like, that's no big deal. I think it's something that we should do. And as long as it's something that is done properly, like, I'm tired of the censorship. But anyways, my real answer.
Preach, brother, preach.
But don't say bad words.
Yeah, don't use pejoratives, though, because if you do, that's what my dad would always say. Don't use pejoratives. Hey, guess what? If you can say fuck and make it entertaining, I don't want to hear what you have to say if you're boring.
If you're saying feckin', though. If you're saying feckin', it's different.
Feckin', yeah. How is that movie rated R? They never say fuck once.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Feckin'. So that's the thing. If it's not about what they're saying or what they're not saying, then you don't rate the movie R, MPAA. But hey, MPAA is about as aged as well as milk at this point. So throw those fuckers out in the trash too while we're at it. Please and thank you.
The other thing, we did mention the Batman. I really got to throw out that the biggest thing for me is that he was in a major comic book movie. And to have somebody that is like a capital A actor, like you just said, in a film like this is not unheard of. But he brought something else to this in a way that people seem to respect a lot more for this type of a film. And I think it brought a lot more attention to the actual makeup effects, which is something that somebody in his position normally wouldn't get to do. When you are a pretty boy actor in Hollywood, you don't cover that shit up with 6.5 hours of latex. That is something that they get pissed off if you even mention that it's a possibility. And instead, he emboldened it and made it so much more be like, fuck yeah, I'm going to be popular. Let's make a TV show out of it. And I'm going to executive produce the entire thing. Like, he embraced it in a way that Brad Pitt never would have done that shit. It's not something that he would be openly willing to say, oh, a character that I did so much makeup for, let's do a full TV show. Hell no. They would never let him do that. And so something about him and his ability to subject himself to that and embrace something is so, I hate to use the word like noble, but it's something that's just authentic that I respect the ever-living hell out of.
Isn't it ironic that the movie that has Colin Farrell under a ton of makeup also has Andy Serkis in a live-action role? I'm just putting that out there for the world, because let's just point the other thing out. Again, another director we don't have enough movies to do an episode on, but Matt Reeves, my friends, look, personals aside, Matt Reeves is the director of my favorite Planet of the Apes movie, and the best modern Batman movie post 1989. Haha, see? I did it again. I made a bullshit ism that you can go with, which is 1989 is amazing, and so is the new movie. But everything in between, not so much. And to your point, I'm glad you didn't mention Tom Cruise, because he's the only other actor I can think of who's done the whole, other than Robert Downey Jr., I guess, but same movie, so you could throw him in with the same bathwater. But those three actors going under the amount of makeup, and Tom Cruise, obviously, in Tropic Thunder, doing that was an intentional thing. Yeah. But, who does that when you're that guy? Tom Cruise. Who does it when you're Colin Farrell? Colin Farrell does.
Johnny,
the hard part, though.
Oh, you know what? He succeeded at making the movie a lot weirder than it needed to be, and it was already about a human walrus.
Yeah.
The hard part about Tom Cruise in that role is he's literally only in that for 4.5 minutes. It's basically a glorified cameo.
But he's the part of that movie everybody remembers, though.
Right. Well, Robert Downey is, I would argue.
Yeah,
I'm not taking it away from him. I understand that it took a lot to do that, and I think that it's great. It's just not Colin Farrell plays a major role.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. And Colin Farrell as the Penguin is inspired casting by Matt Reeves. And also, to your point, uglying up big time. I mean, Tom Cruise essentially had a bald cap on and those fat hands. The hands always crack me up, that there's giant hands that he's wearing. But yeah, Colin Farrell, if you had seen Colin Farrell in other things and someone didn't tell you he was in the Batman, the makeup is so good you wouldn't know.
Correct.
Johnny Depp in Tusk, it still kind of looks like Johnny Depp. He doesn't look like Colin Farrell in the Batman at all. And that's kind of the point, too.
That reminds me, when I watched the Batman, I was watching it with some friends, like the second time, because I watched it in theaters and then watched it with some friends, and one of them was like, "Is that Colin Farrell?" Like after like a good 30 minutes of him being on screen, and that's how good that makeup is. I mean, just to your point, but also, this is just a great movie. It reminds me of the 90s Batman cartoon, which is honestly like, peak Batman. So
The pinnacle.
yeah.
He doesn't get in the way either. That's the thing. Like, he doesn't, Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder kind of steals the show because that's Tom Cruise, but also like we've never seen him do that. Colin Farrell doesn't make the movie about him, and he could have, but like he's really good in the movie. It's just he doesn't get in the way of everything else. He's kind of perfectly part and parcel with everything else. I'm actually mad at myself. It took me a long time to watch the new Batman movie because everybody that I had talked to for the most part, and Ryan's not in this camp any more than you are, Nathan, a lot of people I knew said that movie was really boring, which they probably would have said the same thing about Zodiac, which I feel like the Batman and Zodiac are almost like, I mean, again, they're almost similar movies, except in the Batman, we sort of get a climax. But anyways, beside the point, we're not doing a Batman episode, but yeah, Colin Farrell doesn't get in the way of everything like you would assume he might. Yeah.
Well, we are going into our last question, which means we're going to talk about other actors. So before we do that, titles, Nathan, you want to throw out anything else that we didn't cover before we get to that part?
Well, I know we talked about, the Yorgos movies. A really good one that I think is not really talked about too much is The Beguiled, Sofia Coppola's movie with Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst, and Ellie Fanning. It's a pretty fun movie. It's a Civil War movie. It's an interesting one. It's definitely worth a watch. Another one I would argue, the last one I will say, is The New World. I actually really love this film, the Terrence Malick film. And I think a lot of people, when this came out, it was like a bait and switch kind of thing. Like, oh, it's live action Pocahontas, right? Well, like, yes, but also no. And, but at the same time, like, this is obviously a visual feast of a film, as Terrence Malick movie, but I actually think Colin Farrell does great in this movie. Honestly, it's him, and I can never say her name correctly. Is it Orianka Pilcher? Great film. Slept on a lot. I think a lot of people need to watch The New World and revisit this movie. So,
well, as somebody that is so steeped into Mr. Colin Farrell, I am dying to hear who you're going to answer for this one. So our question number 4 is going to be, what is a cinematic bridge to Mr. Colin Farrell? In other words, what is something that a listener could be a fan of already that would indicate that they may love the filmography of Mr. Colin Farrell?
So I didn't know how to answer this specifically. So I kind of went in 2 different directions. I thought about other films that are akin to just the filmography of Colin Farrell. And that's kind of where I'm like, if I'm thinking of this as like an amalgam of all these things and put it together, like what would be a good representation of somebody that would, watch something akin to the things we've mentioned. And the one that came to my mind was Paris, Texas. And I don't necessarily know why, but it's more of that realistic feeling that I think that we've kind of alluded to a lot with a lot of our discussions in terms of just life happening. And honestly, like in a lot of his films, he just does not want to be around anymore, or he doesn't want to be in that situation. He wants to, either run away or, settle with alcohol or addiction of some sort. But, him kind of coming together and face, something that he, I don't know if anyone's seen Paris, Texas. You've both seen Paris, Texas?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Paris, Texas is about, just real quick synopsis, is about a man who has disappeared for, I think, 5 years. I think that's how long he was gone. I don't remember the exact timeline, but it's quite some time. And he walks back, into his life. Literally, he just walks back from a desert back into his life. And everyone who knew him is just gobsmacked by like what happened? Like, why did you just walk away? It deals with the repercussions of that. So without really getting into the details of it, and dealing with some realistic scenarios with with people. And honestly, this is very relatable to today's world, where I feel like everyone is just constantly, you need to be at attention for something. You always got to be notified for something. That this is something where it's like, I just want to escape. I just want to run away. And with Colin Farrell's filmography, that's where I feel like with a lot of his films. But it was it's an interesting question. I don't know where the link is, but I feel like if anyone watches this movie, they could get a sense for at least the more serious roles of Colin Farrell. The ones that are the ones that where people can kind of put themselves in the shoes of, someone like Harry Dean Stanton's character in this movie. And really just empathize with somebody who is like, this is a reflection of reality. This is a reflection of life, and the shit that we all go through. That's kind of how I feel about it. So, did that make sense to Ryan, at least?
It does. This is a solid pick. Not one I would have jumped to for sure. This is a really interesting idea, and the realism is certainly a fun road to go down to choose something like this, and to get a film like this. This is one that, I mean, you've got some dry comedy in it. You've got some good drama. You've got the realistic characters. You've got a myriad of
romance,
really great emotions. Yeah, exactly. And to cover such a wide filmography like Colin Farrell's, it has to be something like this. So yeah, this is an epic pull. Good job.
Thank you. Watch it, Chris.
What is the other path that you were thinking about?
The other path I was thinking was Inside Llewyn Davis, which is more that Coen brothers kind of comedic, kind of tragic, like just curmudgeon that Colin Farrell is in almost everything he's had. He's just like, I don't want to do this thing, but also massively talented, just like Oscar Isaac's character in this movie. And that's kind of where the other side of it is. Like, you got the serious side of Colin Farrell, and then you got the comedic side, the curmudgeon, also down on his luck, but also can have a good laugh about the shit that happens in his life. So that's what I was feeling. So
that's a great movie. I love that pull. That's a solid one. Chris, what are you thinking for this?
So I went the obvious route, I guess, of picking another actor. And we talked about, the naturalism of Colin Farrell, and also Colin Farrell being a humble person, which I think is definitely included in the reasoning why I picked this gentleman. But if you are someone who finds yourself gravitating towards or enjoying films by Paul Newman, you might enjoy Colin Farrell. And I think there's a naturalistic quality to them as actors that, we use the word naturalistic to mean, at least in my terminology, like, this just feels like they are preternaturally gifted at doing this, and they make what is hard look easy. And that's naturalistic, because again, like, it doesn't look like you're acting, but I know that you are. And that's, I think about Paul Newman when I think about those terms being used. And I think of Colin Farrell the same way. You've already kind of alluded to it, Nathan, with the idea of it's always Colin Farrell himself, but he injects a lot of who he is into what he's doing, and he doesn't let who he is personally get in the way of what he's doing professionally, but who he is personally informs his professional decisions, and it also informs the greater public as to who he is as a person. And not every actor is like that. There are plenty of actors that just, I go act, I come home. There's nothing, there is a compartmentalization there. I'm not saying Paul Newman was the same person on screen that he was in person, but it seemed like it came natural to Mr. Newman. I think it comes natural to Colin Farrell as well. And Paul Newman also did a lot of mainstream stuff and a lot of not mainstream stuff as well. There's a whole generation of people that know Paul Newman only by his voice in Cars. And, there will be a whole group of people that only know Colin Farrell as the Penguin. And that's perfectly fine, because if that's that's what we're doing here, is it's perfectly fine to know someone from a mainstream thing and then find the less mainstream things that they've done through that mainstream thing. And if someone tells you otherwise, tell that person to kindly go fuck themselves, because that's not what we're doing here. If you loved Colin Farrell from the Batman, you should be allowed to go watch his other things. It doesn't have to be the other way around. And I feel the same way about Paul Newman. If someone went, I've only seen him in Cars, I wouldn't go, oh my God, what's wrong with you? I'd say, okay, well, here are the other more mainstreamy things that he was in, verging into the less mainstream and the more kind of actor with a capital A. But for me, Paul Newman is kind of the choice. Nathan, though, I do like your second choice. I think the fact that we haven't had Coen brothers and Colin Farrell working together is the shock of the century, given how naturalistic everything that the three of those people and the two of them and the one together tend to be is surprising. And again, given the Martin McDonagh having worked with Frances McDormand thing, you would think maybe Martin McDonagh would say something to someone that then would get to the Coen brothers to say, Colin Farrell needs to be in one of your movies. Hasn't happened yet, may never happen, but yeah, that's my choice. What do you guys think?
I think it's a good pull. To glom onto that, I wanted to throw out earlier when you mentioned Zodiac, all I could think was, could you imagine Colin Farrell in a prime Fincher movie?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, after seeing Batman,
there's a universe where Colin Farrell could have played Batman.
That's, I mean, that's...
Oh, 100%.
Like, I mean, again, like, he can do a really good, I mean, again, depending on your opinion, a passable American accent. And, I think, he's got the dark and brooding down, that's for sure.
I think it depends on the era of Colin Farrell. It could have been like a George Clooney type Batman, or it could have been more the Robert Pattinson
for sure
type of Batman.
Speaking of Batman, funny enough that you mentioned your choice there, Chris, because we're going down a similar name path. I was thinking of Batman, and I was noticing some similarities with some filmographies, and my choice for this is actually Paul Dano. I think if you look back through his filmography, he is making wide and interesting, quirky choices like Colin Farrell does. He doesn't have a ton of genre films, but when he goes there on drama films or in some of his genre stuff that he's done, it is affecting, it is emotional, it is performances that you go, holy shit, this guy is bringing gravitas to a film that could have failed with someone else in this role. I think back to something like Paul Dano in Prisoners and think this is the kind of performance that like Colin Farrell would give if needed to in one of these. And Paul Dano has played like the cute guy in a handful of movies that easily he has. Look at his filmography.
He's the third leg of the fucking tripod is what he is. Okay.
Yeah. No, I love Little Miss
I'm talking Girl Next Door, where he plays the character
Little Miss Sunshine. Is what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Same guy who 4 years later is in one of my favorite movies, There Will Be Blood. So, there you go.
But I mean, he makes some of these odd choices, like he's in Cowboys and Aliens, like randomly in the middle of his filmography, he's in a movie like that. And Colin Farrell's got choices like that. And then he makes interesting choices like Looper or Ruby Sparks, or even right after that 12 Years a Slave, that you're like, this is a filmography. Like, this is somebody that is making their history in cinema and making great choices along the way. And something about the performances, they just seem similar to me. And obviously, Paul Dano doesn't necessarily have the brooding hero face that you would expect for somebody that's comparing to Colin Farrell. But really, the acting is what I want to get to, is that every single scene that this person is in, even in something like Little Miss Sunshine, Paul Dano steals every scene. And in half that movie, he's fucking mute, like we talked about earlier. He is somebody that you cut out his tongue, and he is somebody that somehow still, while scribbling on a notepad, makes you empathize with him incredibly deeply because of what his desires are. And one screamed word fuck makes you really feel for his character. And somebody like Colin Farrell, I think, is very similar in that regard.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good pick. That's a very good pick. And someone who's I guess he's a little younger than Colin Farrell, because
Yeah.
I think Paul Dano is like our age effectively. Like he's like late
I think he's
30s.
40-ish right now.
Yeah.
I think, around 40. Yeah. And then mid.
They're not even. They haven't
40s.
even entered their prime as actors yet. Theoretically, like that's the thing. Like we're doing this show now, and there's a distinct possibility that 10 years from now we would do an episode about Colin Farrell and have different answers, because 10 years ago my answer would have been In Bruges, and now it is Banshees because of the body of work getting better, trending upward overall. Which, I mean, again, as an actor, I would assume that's your goal, is to be better in everything that you're in and not rest on your laurels. But that would be my assumption here, not the reality that everyone
Somebody needs to tell the rest of those actors.
Hey, man. Yeah, listen up, guys. Take it from me, someone who's never sat foot in front of a camera for more than 5 seconds. You're right.
Well, I mean, incredible discussion tonight. This has been a hell of a lot of fun. Nathan, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media and anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so you can find me at Specifically Blu-rays at Nathan Jones. That is my YouTube channel. I'm on there pretty frequently. Hopefully by this time I will be more frequent. And I'm sure around this time as well, I'll be getting into probably some thematic, thing right before, the spooky season comes up. And so, definitely going to be, churning up for that. So that's going to be really exciting, and probably going to do a mix of, old.
Well, again,
old
thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
So
Chris, anything you want to highlight before we head out for the night?
Nah, patreon.com/culturecast and patreon.com/projection booth is where you can go to find the only thing that can't be found at Weirding Way Media, which is Rankin' on Bond, where we talk about James Bond once a month. Richard Haddam, who co-wrote, speaking of all the Matt Reeves we talked about, who co-wrote Under Siege 2 with Matt Reeves, him and I and Mike White at the Projection Booth talk about Bond once a month, which is as much fun as it is to do as it is, I'm sure, to listen to. So if you want to get in on that, that's where you can go. What about you, Ryan?
Well, there are all kinds of films that have been announced for physical media with someone's favorite productions and people from our company attached to it this year. I will just say, if you have only been starting to dabble into physical media or have never been involved in it, I think it's a great time to check some of these out. If you go to thediscconnected.com, you got a list of all those titles, and I would be happy to point you to the direction of any more because we have a shit ton coming out. Happy to talk about those at any point. So just shoot me a message. We can point you to any of those. Everybody, please, if you've never seen a Colin Farrell film, you got lots to choose from. There are so many great options out there. Nathan, thanks again for doing this. And as usual to everybody out there, we hope you check out the next episode of Film Foundations and continue to push the boundaries of your interests in film.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.